Hey everybody, welcome back. I'm going to do something interesting this week. If you are not on my email list, you are missing out because I send out weekly emails with interesting information, new things for podcasters to help them promote their podcast, all sorts of technology, news that's coming out. It's sort of like a newsletter, but it's really short, generally one or two things. So in this episode, I want to share with you 5 or I think 6, maybe 4, can't remember exactly, things that I've shared over the last 6 months or so that you should know about, and maybe you already know about, but you should definitely know about if you're a podcaster. So let's dive in. The first thing is something about Instagram. Actually, we could talk about 2 things about Instagram. You may have noticed that if you do any promoting on Instagram, that posts really do not perform well anymore. You need to either post a video through their reels or do things in stories to get eyeballs, to get really get some traction. So that's the first thing. But the next thing was really major. If you aren't on Instagram all the time, you may not have heard that you can now actually include links in your story posts using the new link sticker. Now, before this, you had to have something like 10,000 followers to be able to post a link in your story post and get people to swipe up to go to that link, all that sort of stuff. No longer. You can actually put links to your episodes or anything else you want to directly into a story post. And I want to share just a little more information here about that. So all you need to do to add a link to your story post now is to head to the sticker tool from the top navigation bar after uploading your content to your story. You're going to tap the link sticker. It actually has like a link image, and enter the desired URL. It then functions like any other sticker on a story post. Okay, now let's move on to Amazon Music and Audible. Now, for a while, Amazon Music and Audible have offered podcasts. This is a cool thing because if you're listening on an Echo device or you like to listen to audiobooks a lot, this is allowing people who do that to now listen to podcasts easier on those devices or in those apps. You may have received an email. If you follow me, you know that how to add Amazon as a destination in Libsyn. So you may have already received an email over the last 6 months or so from Amazon about your podcast being on there, and they shared some great tools and tips for promoting their service. But if you haven't, I'm going to put a link in the show notes. It's podcasters.amazon.com/promotional-tools. And on that site, they have some best practice and things that you've heard me talk about before. They also have some suggested messaging like follow so-and-so on Amazon Music, listen to blah, blah, blah on Amazon Music. But the cool thing they have is that they have social templates. So you can download social templates with Amazon's logo and colors and all that sort of stuff and fill in your podcast. They also have the directions for how to add a listen on Amazon button, Amazon Music, listen on Audible, and they have the ways to download those there. So if you are not using those tools, I would recommend them because Amazon is quickly becoming like the 4th or 5th destination or place that people are listening to podcasts. Now, speaking about other destinations, Samsung has introduced a free podcast platform. And if you're on Libsyn, you may have already heard about this one as well. And you can go into Libsyn and add this destination organically. But they can add this platform from their RSS feed. The Samsung free podcast app is available on Samsung Galaxy devices. You can also find the Listen tab, which is available on Z Fold, Z Flip, Galaxy S21, Galaxy S20, Galaxy Note 20, Galaxy S10, Galaxy Note 10, all the Galaxy things. I'm not an Android user, or a Samsung user, but you now have this other native podcast app on Samsung devices, which is really great. And it's great for people because we still know that about over 50% of people around the world use Android devices, non-Apple devices. So this is a cool thing to make sure that you add that Samsung destination or get added into that Samsung directory if you're not in Libsyn. Now, another tool that came up recently, and I think is just the coolest thing because it really helps you figure out what other podcasts you could go on to help grow your audience. Which podcasts are related to you? I've heard some people call these like things podcast nodes or platform nodes. Like, who is a bigger podcast or influencer, whatever you want to call them, that has many connections to more other podcasts that you could go on and reach other listeners and things like that. So there's a tool, it's from a company called Rephonic, and it's their 3D audience graph. Okay. So, and you've heard me say many times that being a guest on other podcasts is a great way to grow your own brand and audience. And I think I've shared before that you can go into Apple's podcast app and take a look under your podcast at the listeners also like section, or any podcast you listen to that you think is related to. You could go in and find podcasts that are similar to yours or that your listeners are listening to. Well, this 3D audience graph from Rephonic takes that and it supersizes it. So all you have to do, and I'll share it, you go to rephonic.com/graph, and I'll have these in the show notes. You search the name of a podcast. You could start with yours, try some others as well. And then what Rephonic does is they tap into those listener also subscribe to or listeners also like things from Apple Podcasts. And then you get this 3D graph of podcasts that are connected to yours via listeners. And you can see how they're connected. You can get many, many levels deep. You can click and spin it. It's 3D. It's really cool. But then it also shows you the intersections. So like those big podcasts that you connect to that also connect to a lot of other podcasts that your listeners are listening to. And you can try to target those. So it's really helpful. I think it's super cool. It's gonna blow your mind when you check it out. So one of the last thing I want to talk about today that's really big this year, it's something that I think you should start focusing on as a podcaster. And I've mentioned it a little bit before, but that's premium content and memberships. All of the industry magazines and blogs and things like that have really been talking about 2022 as the year of premium content and memberships. And so for a lot of podcasters, that's going to be a focus this year. So I wanted to share some services, sites, platforms where you can actually create premium content and also have a membership. You can certainly go to Apple Podcasts and create a premium feed. That's a really easy way to do that. But if you're also wanting to do some type of membership, provide different type of premium content or exclusive access, these are some services that you should check out. The first one is Glow. Glow.fm, which is owned by Libsyn. So this is a premium platform built by podcasters for podcasters. Okay, so it was built with podcasting in mind. It's podcast focused. It's a membership site development thing. So if you've heard of Patreon before, which I'm going to mention in a second, it's like Patreon exclusively for podcasters. So check it out, glow.fm. The second one I want to mention is Memberful, memberful.com. Again, all these links are going to be in the show notes. Memberful claims to be the most flexible solution for creators, and it was recommended by industry associations like Podcast Movement. I've heard a lot of people use it. A lot of people like it. Check that out as well. It's more of a traditional membership site option. And the industry standard, the one that's been around forever, is Patreon, patreon.com, Patreon, if you're trying to figure out how to spell that. They've been the industry leader for a long time. Okay, they've been around forever. It's probably a decade at this point. You can trust them. You can upload exclusive content, a private podcast feed, all those types of things. So definitely check out those three: Glow, Memberful, Patreon. And remember, when you're creating premium options for your audience and community, your best bet for monetization through those premium options is to grant access to you in some way. Okay, exclusive content from you, group calls with you on Zoom, etc. Okay, that is going to be the best thing to really make sure you're successful in that premium option world. That's all I have for today. I'm going to come back maybe in a few weeks and share some of these others. Again, I send out a weekly email. The easiest way to get on my email list is to go to dannyosmond.com/roadmap and download the roadmap. Maybe do it again if you've done it before, you're already on the email list. But go ahead and get that roadmap. That's a help. for you. And then you'll get on my email list. You'll get a weekly newsletter from me that shares a couple of these things each week as well. So look for some more of these tips from me in coming episodes, and definitely get on my email list if you haven't already. And I would love to hear from you. You can always email me at danny@emeraldcitypro.com if you have any questions, if you have any topics you'd like me to cover. You can go to speakpipe.com/podcast strategies and leave me a voicemail as well. And please share this with friends, family, colleagues that you think are thinking about starting a podcast or have a podcast. I would love to help them as well. And I always appreciate you going and reviewing this podcast. In some coming weeks, I will probably read some new reviews that we've gotten recently. So please go in and leave those, and I will talk to you next week.